99-cent rental.
This is 99 Cent Rental. I'm your host, Bryan White, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Dave White. Dave, how you doing? All right, awesome.
It has been a week, and it's been a day in that week. We just officially started looking for a new apartment, and I, for a moment, was like, hey, this could be fun. And then I remembered that that's not ever going to be true. And,
you're fooling yourself, man.
Yeah, so I was like, let's see what kind of apartments this money can get us. Not much is the answer. I don't know who can afford to live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, but I am just barely one of them. And so we'll see how this goes. I don't have high expectations.
All right. Well, good luck there. It'd be nice to get away from your upstairs neighbors, right?
Yep.
Yeah, they're kind of the fucking third co-host of this podcast.
Yeah, that is what led me to just decide, you know what? I think it's just time to fucking go. Burn the building down on my way out.
Leave them with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's hard to explain to someone who never had the experience what a trip to the video store was like back in the day. And the shelves were choked with absolutely bizarre crap made on tiny budgets, completely divorced from any recognizable reality, and it was a blast. We intend to talk about every one of them. But just before we get into it, if you're hearing this and you aren't aware of our other show, Dave and I do a horror movie podcast on the weeks the 99 Cent Rental is off called Bring Me the Axe. Our latest episode covers the 1986 horror movie road trip, The Hitcher. And coming up next week, we'll be looking at the original Troll from director John Carl Buechler. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can find us on Instagram at Bring Me the Axe Pod, and Dave's over there at That Queerwolf. And I encourage you to follow us because we have a good time and we have a lot of fun. We play games and everybody laughs. At least I assume they laugh.
I know.
Yeah, you're a very serious person. Yep. We've also got a TikTok. You can look us up by name, Bring Me the Axe. And we're having fun over there too, or at least I am. Dave will not
rope me into this.
Not be partaking in that psyop. So yeah, you can also contact us directly at 99centrentalpod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a cheesy movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the old business. Lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. And we're on YouTube now, so you can search us by name and subscribe if you prefer to consume your podcast that way. And you'll be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you listen on YouTube, do us a favor. Give the episode a like and leave a comment. We like hearing from you guys. Just want to get all that out of the way right at the top of the show because Dave.
Yeah.
Who's this over here?
Oh, this gentleman here. We have a guest. This is a man whose contributions to genre film are perhaps rivaled only by his commitment to making the internet a hilarious place. It's Jeff Nelson. Hi, Jeff.
Hello. Wow, that's quite an introduction. I'm assuming that you're referring to my days at Scream Factory.
Yes.
And all those, the stories that I could tell. That's for an entirely different podcast. But yes, I was there for a good 11 years or so. I left last summer, but lots of good films, lots of great stuff, including the movie that we're going to be talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah. I was watching this one, I don't know, maybe about a year ago at this point, and I'm watching it, and it occurred to me, man, if this movie isn't like Jeff Nelson's Instagram feed, I don't know what is.
Well, it's really funny because when I started the Instagram feed, 2017, 2016, I just sprinkled in some Scream Factory horror stuff. And then I just kind of let my brain unlock and it turned into kind of a Gen X bonkers video store, along with television and male strippers and dynasty cat fights and crazy stuff. And it is literally how my brain operates. I'm just glad that there's a lot of people there to enjoy and participate in the silliness that it all is. But that's who I am. I'm being genuine at the end of the day.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's we've danced around a little bit. Let's give a little taste of what we're talking about tonight. Here's a little taste.
A sensational crime. An airtight alibi.
We can't lay a finger on this guy.
And a chain of evidence.
Bring him in.
Charles Bronson is a cop looking for a killer, and he's running out of time.
Go ahead, sink me in. Punish me.
When the guilty go free, the system is the crime.
I'm a mean, selfish son of a bitch. But I want to kill her, and what I want comes first.
Well, how come I've never heard him mention a daughter?
It seldom crosses his mind that he has one.
He's one angry man with someone to protect.
How long are you with your father?
He can make a difference.
You like hurting girls?
I won't answer that.
Girls won't have anything to do with you, but you get back at them, don't you?
I won't listen to your filth.
Gotta remind you about evidence obtained under duress?
It's inadmissible, Leo.
We got no evidence and we can't hold this kid.
He's our man, Captain. I'm gonna get him. Found some blood.
He's lying. There was no blood on my clothes, and he knows it.
How do you plead, Warren? Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty.
The last thing I want to do is get involved with a cop.
Well, I don't blame you. Leo, I went back to the lab and I talked to the technician. And I asked him if you...
Why didn't you ask me?
True, Lieutenant. You planted the evidence.
You know why. We could nail him sooner or later.
After counting how many more dead. He had to be stopped. Forget what's legal, do what's right.
After all the evidence is in, he'll reach his own verdict and execute the sentence by the deadline when there is no justice. This man is the law. 10 to midnight. Charles Bronson, Lisa Eilbacher, and Andrew Stevens in a Golan Globus production of a J. Lee Thompson film. 10 to midnight.
Sweet Jesus. That's right.
You don't even need to see the movie. The trailer literally showed you.
Shows
pretty
you the
much
ending.
Everything. Literally the entire movie. It's funny how, I mean, we got to remember when trailers were shown back then, you saw them once, you couldn't rewind, like it just made impressions and that's it. Like, but in today, like, with social media, you can just rewind and put the pieces together. But my God, I forgot how much they spoiled so much in that trailer.
It's a pretty long trailer too.
Yeah.
And they show you, first of all, they show you literally the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they really milk that shot of him actually like executing Warren.
Yeah.
Like they show it several times, man. It is quite a trailer. That's right.
Well,
We're going to Bronson, Missouri tonight.
I was going to say that from a marketing standpoint, they were like, shit, there's no gunshots except for one. And he's known for Death Wish and all this stuff. How do we make this more action? And that's why I'm sure that's why they have him repeating that gunshot multiple times.
Oh, sure.
So they can fit it with that audience. Yes.
Yeah, this is a movie that is, I think, written by someone who thought the Dirty Harry movies were too subtle.
Right. It is. I do, I've seen this movie so many times. I've actually looked into history and reviews or whatever. And I know that Siskel and Ebert really went hard on this one. They hated it. They thought it was sleazy and garbage. And of course, when you're a teenager and you hear that, like, well, sign me up. I don't care what you say. I want to see this kind of stuff. And it is a wild movie. I've seen it with audiences in repertory theaters. I've seen it with friends. I've seen it by myself. It's just it's very laughable, but also delivers what you want to go and see a Charles Bronson film to do. You want like justice, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. This is definitely because this is I kind of consider this sort of like the canon period of Bronson's career to be sort of like the second wave of it. Because like he's on the downside of his career. He's old at this point. I think he's like 60 or 61 in this movie. He's not the sort of like Western movie tough guy anymore, but
no, don't tell him that.
I know he really left an impression with Death Wish that he was able to just skate through the 70s on. And then Canon come along and are like, boy, have we got scripts that you're gonna love.
Right. I mean, they just like they were like, as long as you do Death Wish 2, because we know that's going to be the moneymaker, well, here's all these other projects too. And he just kept doing it. And, God love him for like a long time, like all through the 80s. Yeah. I think even into the 90s too.
A little ways. I can't remember. I think it's Death Wish. There is a Death Wish.
The last
5,
Death Wish movie
right?
is in the 90s.
It's in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing will beat Death Wish 3, though. That's a whole other thing.
No,
Yeah,
one day
nothing will beat that.
It's inevitable that we one day get to Death Wish 3. So shall we do the numbers?
Yeah.
All right. So the year was 1983. Year of our Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So here's some other movies that were released in 1983. Krull was released in 1983. And man, that movie sucks. I watched it just recently, and there was times when I watched it, I'm like, how is this still on? Like, what time is it? It's like an hour in. My God. Yep. Also in 1983, Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone.
Saw that in the theater.
Did you?
Yes, I did, with a 3D. And I was disappointed because it wasn't 3D enough. It was at the tail end of 3D movies, and I was like, I want things shooting out, like, and where is that? And they just made it 3D just to make it 3D.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then DC Cab came out in 1983.
Ooh.
Yep. And also Warrior of the Lost World, which having watched that one on Mystery Science Theater, I always sort of imagined that was a movie made in the 70s. I don't know why, but good God.
83 was a hard year.
Tough year. Even for canon, 83 was kind of a tough year. And rounding it out for 1983, Get Crazy came out in 1983. Refer to our Get Crazy episode.
I wouldn't if I were you.
You shut up. That's a good episode.
When I think of 1983, I think of Cujo for some reason, because that's like an actually legit, decent Stephen King adaptation that came out like in the middle of that year. And I don't think it gets it. I think it has its credit, but I don't think it gets enough credit. And so like it's my mind goes there. I passed on Krull when I was a kid. I let my brothers go for those sword and sword. That was a science fiction one, right? There was all
a little bit of Star Wars, a little bit of Lord of the Rings, like fantasy stuff. It kind of crosses over. Not a good movie though. It has a lot of really cool ideas that they just completely sleep on. But man, most of that movie is just boring.
Yeah.
So here's a little cast and crew for us. The director is a man named J. Lee Thompson. And he was the British director who was responsible for 1980's Happy Birthday to Me.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
Yep.
Yeah, he made some great movies.
One of my favorites, and one of the gorier ones in the post Halloween slasher ripoffs. But it's just, again, to go from Happy Birthday to Me in 81 to 10 to Midnight in 1983, when he was well known for Guns of Navarro and some like other like real legit films. Kind of a, let's get the
this man made Cape
money.
Fear.
I know.
Yeah,
he made that, and then he but hey, money is money.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. You know what he also did. He conclusively put the Planet of the Apes franchise to bed with the last two movies, and at Battle for the Planet of the Apes, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, both of them. Yep. And so, starting with St. Ives in 1976. Thompson directed nearly everything that Bronson did right up to the final conflict for canon. Kinjite, Forbidden Subjects, which is so scummy.
There's a few movies that I have in my video library that I'm embarrassed to have. That's one of them for sure.
Yeah.
I saw that with a theater, a double feature with 10 to Midnight. And let's just say that the audience just felt so uncomfortable with Kinjite. It made 10 to Midnight feel like Sesame Street.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Canon kept him pretty busy all the way up to the end. Man, if I dream of like programming like a double feature or like midnight movies, I would 100% show this movie with Death Wish 3. Like that, they're just the obvious pairing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So our cast includes Charles Bronson, as we said, who is neck deep, as I said, in the second wave of his career, right at the beginning of his gonzo run of action movies for Canon. When you need a tough guy who's going to make every performance as wooden as possible, you call Charles Bronson.
Yeah, he's got like one speed.
Yes.
And it's pissed.
It's very chilled and pissed. Yes.
Yep. And like every movie that he does for them in particular is done with this weird, because like their process he must have just loved it because they kept the money rolling in, but their process must have just made him so confused, because every movie that he does, like right up to kind of the end of his career, is just, he has this look of confusion about him.
Oh yeah.
Every single scene that just betrays every role that he's playing.
But there's also an interesting glint in his eyes, especially in the later movies, the canon ones, where he seems to be in on the absurdity of everything that's going on. It's almost like he can't hide it. It's one of the things that makes him very endearing, and unlike like the Stallones and the Clint Eastwoods and the whatever from the 80s, there's just something about Bronson that makes it feel like, this is crap, right? This is sleazy shit, right? And you kind of get it in his eyes, like, yeah, I know, I'm getting a check.
As he slings his big bag of money over his shoulder and leaves the room.
I mean, I'm just gonna say, how do you, in one scene, most memorable scene in 10 to Midnight, how do you take a sex toy?
Oh, I cannot wait to talk about that scene.
Wag it at somebody as an actor and not just think, holy shit, this is where I'm at in my career.
I cannot wait to talk about that scene, because they must have done 50 takes of that where somebody dies laughing in every scene, because it is surreal.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt your flow, but it just kind of went there. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So also we've got Lisa Eilbacher, who is immediately recognized as Jenny Summers from Beverly Hills Cop.
Or if you're me, you recognize her from This House Possessed.
Yes!
Oh my God, yes!
Yes, one of those underrated TV movies that never has seen the light of home video.
No, you gotta get that one on bootleg. She's also in Bad Ronald.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. But This House Possessed, you get points big time for me for knowing that film.
I love that movie. I've watched it so many times. The shitty version that's on YouTube. I've watched it so many times.
Oh my God, I saw it as a kid.
Did they do that on Monday Night Movie?
Yeah,
I believe so.
It was like, I remember like a babysitter was over. I was 9. It was like 81. It was like, I need to see This House Possessed. I was like, it's just, yeah.
It is a baffling film.
Yeah, it's a weird movie, but points for knowing that she's in that.
Yep. She did a lot of 70s TV prior to this. She's on the Brady Bunch. She's in the Hardy Boys. She was on the Logan's Run show. She was also on that crazy Spider-Man show they produced for a little while there. And then she throws in the towel in 1995. It's not really clear why. She's staying pretty busy up to that point. And kind of rounding it out, we got Gene Davis, who we just talked about a little bit in our last Bring Me the Axe episode about The Hitcher. His career never really takes off, as this is probably his biggest role before he retreats to bit parts here and there sometimes.
He was in Universal Soldier, which I watched last night.
Oh, yes.
I'm waiting for you guys to mention one big role that he did.
He's in Cruising.
There you go. Thank you very much.
Yep.
He plays a small but very memorable role in Cruising. And the fact that he had that film and this one so close, it's an odd kind of thing. We tried to get him for the Blu-ray for Scream Factory. I tried everything. I went to many people, and I got a hold of him at some point. He respectfully declined, but I was like, damn, you were Gene Davis in this movie is the most valuable player, because here's the deal. It takes balls, literally, to run around half of your movie naked. Think about crew members, directors, people on set, just your own, for like how you have to be really comfortable in your skin and then go into an acting mode.
Now, to be fair, though, his body is pretty good.
He is
it's
cut,
good.
dude.
There's not much to be ashamed of there.
Sure,
not that there should be any time, but
nothing to be ashamed of. But still, think about it. You got a bunch of crew members. You got like you're fucking naked in front of every
and it's not like they're shooting him from the waist up with like underwear on or anything like that. He is out there.
He is getting in there, rolling around with people,
and these newfangled high def transfers. They really kind of bring the fidelity up in certain scenes that were definitely kind of lost in the darkness of 35 millimeter and like the VHS presentation. Boy.
But he gets credit on that. Just before you move on, Andrew Stevens, he's in it. And I'm surprised that he's fourth down, considering he was in The Fury kind of as a lead, and The Seduction and Class of Massacre at Central High. He's been in a whole bunch of stuff. So it's kind of cool that he's in it. He was interviewed on the Blu-ray, and I think he took if I recall right, took the opportunity to do it to work with Bronson, and didn't mind being like, second or third down or fourth down, I think, at this point. But He's okay.
Yeah. He gets like third mention in the trailer. Gene Davis gets no mention, but the fact that he's like nude throughout half the movie is just enough for me to be like, let's talk about this man a little bit here.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. If that and Charles Bronson, like, you're not gonna make your name's not coming up.
Yeah, and then Wilford Brimley is in this, and what's his name? Lewis.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Jeffrey Lewis.
Yeah, Jeffrey Lewis. Juliet Lewis's dad. Like, again, there's sprinklings of other people in there. It's like, they got some actors. I mean, they all do their stuff.
I know. I gotta wonder how they pitched this to people, because this does not. We'll talk about it a little bit here.
These are all like journeyman people, though. Like these are actors. You take it because it's a job.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yep. So this movie was made on a budget of $4 million, and it only brought in $7 million. So it made its money back. But I suspect that the subject matter kept it from doing better, because the year prior, Bronson did Death Wish 2, which had twice the budget and brought in nearly $30 million. So as we were talking about this right before we started recording, was I think the subject matter, the central premise of this movie was probably just a little too weird for people, even though like Bronson was kind of hot at the time.
I would say also that as much as we are enjoying talking about this film, the title itself is such a like, what does this even mean? There's literally nothing in the movie that ties 10 to midnight. It is literally just a title. And I honestly think that kind of sunk it to a level. It's a cool sounding title, but the killer doesn't kill people 10 to midnight. There's no sort of tie-in, so it's an outlier type of title. That's my guess. That's my guess.
I'm actually surprised this didn't do better, because given that when it comes out, and this is like, what, 2 years into sort of Reagan's first term, like this is big Reagan era fear. That's kind of like, it's exploiting that idea of like, there's too much bureaucracy. There's too many, people are too soft on crime. Like this, that is the thesis of this movie, and they ride it really hard. I think it's just like, it's too confusing, and they don't ever really express that in the trailer. And then the reviews for this were savage. So like, you're not getting any help from them. And so I guess maybe people were just like, I don't know what this is. There's a man running around nude. That's all I get.
Right. Well, but what's interesting is there's still a lot of nudity from women in this film to play to the central audience that, this movie was made for. But I do think that the naked maybe closeted serial killer running around is a bit probably had fucky. It's also a very hard R. You know what I mean? There's lots of gore, lots of nudity, lots of suggestive stuff. I'm surprised that the MPA didn't have any issues with this one. I'm surprised it came out. I'm guessing they made it halfway through and were like, you know what? Fine, here, R, get out of here. Go away. How dare you?
So the writer of the movie is a guy named William Roberts. And he wrote a lot of television in the 50s and 60s.
Donna Reed. He created Donna Reed.
Oh my God.
He created Donna Reed. Yep. He also wrote the Magnificent Seven, which is no small credit.
No.
But that's what's wild about this movie is like, these are all competent people, very competent cast, competent filmmakers making a movie that is such tasteless garbage.
Oh yeah.
That is like, why did you all agree?
I did not know the Donna Reed thing. That makes me love this film even more. I did not even, wow. That's crazy.
Yep. This script is one of the last things that he wrote that would be produced. His last credit, however, is the 1995 Damon Wayans comedy Major Payne.
Oh God! Wow. What a way to end your career.
Yikes!
Yeah, and also, so the road to production for this movie is kind of the perfect tale of a Golan Globus production. So the original plan was to produce an adaptation of a novel called The Evil That Men Do, but the cost of the script plus the option puts the cost for that in the six figures range, which Menahem Golan was unwilling to pay. So, but he and the film's producer Pancho Conner were expected in Cannes to promote and pre-sell The Evil That Men Do, so they go there anyways.
Gonna make it up as they go,
and they do. They pitch. They brainstorm a title, which they came to 10 to midnight. Absolutely loved it, and they pitched it to buyers, like international buyers, which is, kind of what they did. with a simple pitch. They said it was about a movie about action, danger, and revenge. And everybody just wrote a check for him.
I mean, are we that surprised? Like, this is what DeAngelis used to do too. Like, they would go to Cannes and be like, "Hey, I've got this great poster. What do you think? This movie's going to be good." They'd be like, "What's it about?" Don't worry about it.
Oh yeah. That's Fabrizio DeAngelis. That's everybody. That's everybody in Italy, basically, and in Spain.
It's a beautiful way of filmmaking. It's such a fake it till you make it thing where I'm like, hey, maybe I can just be whatever I want.
It just takes will, because those two dudes, Golan and Globus, just faked it throughout for an entire decade, and they became fabulously wealthy and made some of the 80s most like memorable movies, but they were just faking it the whole time. It's nuts.
I'm surprised, honestly, that Golan Globus lasted after the Apple and X-Ray, aka Hospital Massacre. And
I love that movie so much.
I do too. And New Year's Evil, but these were bombs. These were not.
We've done all of both of those movies.
Yeah. These are. I mean, I love them. They're guilty pleasures, but I can't believe that Golan and Globus got financing in movies past those movies, because those were bombs.
They're terrible.
They're terrible.
Yeah.
They're just
yeah. You know what it is they would be occasionally graced with a hit, and when they hit, they fucking hit. So like, Enter the Ninja was sort of like their early one that they were able to really kind of skate by on, and then Break-In happens.
Yeah, but for every break-in, there was like 3 Masters of the Universe.
Or like Rapid.
Right. Exactly. For every, although Ninja 3 was kind of a hit. That's another one of them. That the Ninja 3 is Golan Globus on all cylinders. Like, that's probably the nuttiest out of all of them. But like, yeah, I mean, they had a movie called Schizoid with Klaus Kinski. That didn't do anything. Like their history is crazy.
They have a fundamental misunderstanding of like how to make a horror movie, or how to do they? I know, right. But because man, do I love X-Ray? Jesus Christ!
I mean, listen, I love X-Ray and New Year's Evil and even Schizoid, because I look at them and I'm fascinated of like, these are just on their own planet. Like,
everyone is just doing their best.
Everyone is doing their best through weird scripts and really odd characters, and and then the Apple. Oh, that's another thing. But I also if I'm spoiling this or whatever, I also heard that once they made this deal, they went back and they got some sort of a slasher film script called like Bloody
Sunday is what it was called.
Bloody Sunday.
So so the movie that we got, so the William Roberts' script was actually Bloody Sunday, and there's a co-writer credit on this, which might have been Thompson. But he's the guy who sort of tuned it up and turned it into a cop movie.
Yes, Thompson. He is the second credited writer.
Yeah, because after Con, they go home with their like bags full of money, and they're like, "Well, shit, what do we do now?" And there's another producer in the Canon system, a guy by the name of Lance Hool, who gets a credit simply because he suggested that they just grab a script from the ones that they'd had kicking around their offices. And they land on Bloody Sunday, and they do some rewrites, and they turn it into this cop movie. And then anyways, the year after this, they end up producing The Evil the Men Do off the back of all of the money that they raised at Cannes for this
which is an Evil That Men Do is not as fun as 10 to Midnight. It's sleazy.
It's mean.
It's mean. It's brutal. I've tried watching it twice to kind of like, I should like it because J. Lee Thompson is in it and then all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, this is just torturous and doesn't feel as fun. I know that their intention wasn't to make 10 to Midnight a fun movie, but it's an audience pleaser. And there's a goofiness to it, whereas Evil That Men Does, nope.
No. But that's movie magic right there. Like the way that these guys make movies is crazy. Just flying by the seat of their pants. Somehow everything works out. And lastly, the score was provided by Robert O. Raglan. And I got to tell you, I kind of love it.
The guy who you call if you need something that sounds like something else.
Yeah. I have the soundtrack. I had to, when it came out on CD a couple of years ago, I bought it. I love it. It's very 80s. It's aggressive.
It sounds a lot
synthy.
like this. It sounds a lot like the stuff that a lot of these like synthwave, like outrun artists are making now. Like
Yeah.
It's kind of like throbbing synth with like guitar stings and shit. It's great. I think it's a really, really, it's one of the best parts of the movie.
It just sounds of the 80s, and it really sets the tone, especially with the opening credits, and it's a vibe. And so I'm glad that you mentioned the score for this, because it's always easy to overlook the composers when it comes to any movie, but I really agree that he makes a big difference on this.
Yeah, he's interesting because he's a big canon guy. Like that was a huge chunk of his career was mostly just canon movies. He also did Q, the Winged Serpent.
Oh my
and
God,
that is such an epic score. I got that recently, and he's just like you're like, you hire him if you want someone who's like, make something that sounds like this other popular thing, but not so much that anyone will notice.
Yeah.
And he's your guy.
Because Q is like a $10 version of like John Williams.
Yep.
Yeah. But he also did The Thing with Two Heads. He did The Touch of Satan. And he did the music for a movie called Evils of the Night, which is powerfully bad.
Yeah, I've never made it through that
movie. It is unbelievably weird.
He also did Grizzly.
Yes, he did.
Oh, he did Grizzly?
Yep.
Oh, wow. This is so different from Grizzly, because Grizzly feels like, you said it earlier, like a fake John Williams.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 to Midnight doesn't feel like John Williams at all. Actually, it feels very similar to a movie came out the next year from Angel.
Oh, yes.
Craig Safan's score, or Safan's score, whatever. They're very similar in their kind of Hollywood kind of sleazy shit,
Yeah, it's a Sunset Strip kind of thing.
Yeah. Like Vice Squad has that too.
Yep.
It's just a kind of an edge to them.
Yep. So shall we dive in?
Yes.
Go for it.
So we open on a smoky room in a police station as our hero, Leo Kessler, pecks away at a typewriter while some crazy homeless guy confesses to a crime that he definitely didn't commit.
Yeah, watching Charles Bronson type is so painful in this movie because he's just like T H.
It's also it's an odd opening because literally it has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. They just wanted to make sure that they started the movie with Charles Bronson first.
Yeah, so this was supposed to. They shot this. It was actually somewhere sort of toward the middle of the movie. As part of the sort of like investigation, but they were like, we really kind of got to like hit the ground running with this one.
Yep.
So let everybody know there's a murder going on. And Charles Bronson is a cop. That's all you really need to know. So he gets rid of the crazy homeless guy. And then like a sleazy reporter like sneaks up on him looking for some details for a story. Kessler shakes him off too.
Yeah, what they really want you to know is that right out of the gate, Charles Bronson's not one of these young namby-pamby cops who are going to follow the rules and do their job or anything.
You can
He's
say
got
that
different ideas.
You can say that he plays by his own rules.
Yeah.
So now we cut the titles. We fade in on the campus for like a bank, I think it is. We got Warren Stacy, our killer, and watches a lady from work meet up with her boyfriend in a sweet, sweet van. While remembering that time he unzipped her dress from behind, and she very reasonably freaked out and threw coffee on him.
Yeah, I was confused about this because I was like, is this a memory or is this an imagination? Why is this lady so uptight? Yikes.
Well, I mean, come on. If you're in the office, you probably shouldn't be unzipping ladies' dresses.
Yeah, that's why they have very like the idea of what a serial killer is, and this is just like he's just a explicit maniac who has like no social graces whatsoever, just rubbing himself up against women in line. Like
right, exactly. And again, by the way, if that's their only backstory, that's a pretty weak backstory to literally go out and kill him. Like, my God.
Doesn't take much.
Like, no, it doesn't take much.
Nope. So at home, he blow dries his fabulous hair, applies aftershave, all that.
Oh.
Looking fancy, he folds up his crazy butterfly knife.
This is the moment when I was like, somebody on this crew is very gay because we are not even out of the credits yet. And there is this man mostly nude with his swimmer's body, and the camera is just lingering on it.
He's got those bikini briefs.
Yep.
He's got a poster of himself doing karate.
And the song is called "Look at Me." And it's playing in the background during this whole scene, and it's like, okay, this is pretty gay.
Oh,
very gay.
Yeah.
And is there anything more 80s than a butterfly knife? It's right up there with the Uzi.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of surprised that they went with that instead of the sort of like the movie Standby at the time that was like the device, the weapon that said I'm a bad guy was almost always a switchblade.
Yeah, but this is the 80s. You got to fancy. You got to have a bit of flair to you.
Those things are cool as hell, man.
Well,
yeah, that's why they gave him that. So yeah, and then he kind of gussies up, heads off to the movies where he makes a scene harassing two ladies in line.
Just rubs right up on her. Like, that's a thing it's okay to do. Because this movie really doesn't think women's liberation is so hot.
No, not from not in that early 80s. That was as many women, rightfully so, were like, is this your cinematic pushback to, because it wasn't just a sleazy killer in this film. It was films like Maniac and Don't Go in the House and The Burning and, or not The Burning, Don't Answer the Phone. There was all these kind of lone wolf stalker kind of guys that were going after women in a lot of these movies. The Seduction, I mentioned that earlier. There was just a flurry of them, and you kind of have to wonder, is like, was that going on? But yeah, you look at the problems of it now.
Yeah, I mean, this is men's rights, the movie.
Right, exactly, something like that.
If this movie were a thing, it'd be a fedora with a pair of fingerless gloves.
Yeah, because it's not just like, it's like he presses his body up against her and like it looks like he's like about to breathe in her ear or something real gross.
He's like literally breathing down her neck.
And she's kind of like, dude, get off of me. And he's like, yeah, bitch. Like, what? That's not okay that's even by serial killer standards, that's creepy.
Yep. Well, there's a method to the madness, because what he's doing here is he's trying to make sure that he's remembered, but also it's 1983. So, So after chasing the girls away in the movie, he excuses himself to the theater's nasty ass restroom, where he slips on some gloves and climbs out the window. Now, elsewhere, he drives his Bundy Beetle out to the middle of the woods of Los Angeles, that forested area that doesn't take hours to drive out of.
Right. And I live in Los Angeles, and let me tell you, I have a lot of problems with, I know where that theater is in Santa Monica because I've been there. I literally know where maybe forests and parks are. How would he know exactly where to go to? There's a lot of parks and forests. So it's kind of like I got to assume that the movie that he was going in as his alibi is maybe 2 hours or whatever at most. So we got some problems here with timing and
that movie is ending by the time he reaches the forest.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. To get out of Los Angeles and get on to Malibu or wherever these people are going in the forest is pretty funny.
So now he emerges nude from his car, sneaking up on that sweet van we saw a little while ago. And as he sneaks up on it, he's in there watching the lady who threw coffee on him, doing it with her boyfriend.
Now, here's what I think about this movie. When they had this script, they were like, I don't think this is going to win us any good reviews, but by God, they're going to remember us one way or another. Nudity.
Yeah, and it's very, very explicit, and it's accompanied by very porno, like very max porno music.
Oh, yeah, definitely much.
Yeah. So when she notices Warren watching her through the window, he throws the doors open, stabs the shit out of her boyfriend, and she flees from the van, naked, of course. Now, Warren gives chase, eventually tracking her down, stabbing the shit out of her too. So then he drives back to the movie, sneaks back in, sits back down, hitting on those girls again as he leaves, so that everybody will remember him being there.
And the girl that he doesn't hit on, the other one, she's a real dummy because she's like, hey, wait, he's only trying to be nice. And it's like, lady, even you can tell that he is a giant walking red flag. And then he basically turns and is just like, oh, what? You're not into me, dyke.
Right. Yeah. It's just the thing is like, she's just jealous because he wasn't hitting on her. Wasn't breathing down her neck.
And we will come back to this later because she is still not over it.
No. So, also as he's leaving, the look, the camera kind of stays on him and he has this look that he's just so fucking pleased with himself. Yeah. So now, at a later date, the police arrive at the scene of the stabbing. The sleazy reporter is interviewing the police captain. It's played by Wilford Diabetes Brimley, who just will not comment.
Who has been 72 years old since the day he was born.
He was born 50, I swear to God. So then Leo comes stumbling out of the woods and, being a crack detective, zeroes in on a piece of chewing gum, which is dropped by Detective Paul McCann, his young new partner. And so at the medical examiner's office, we also learn a few forensic details that are not important now, but they'll be important a little bit later on. And then we find out that Warren at work is a desktop support guy for the office steno pool, which I was quite frankly surprised to find out was still a thing in 1983.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And the one who answers the phone in the steno pool is really incredible. She just shouts, who is this? What are you saying?
She's my favorite. That clip is definitely my Instagram page. What are you saying? Oh my God, Betty's dead. It's like the terrible delivery. And I've seen it in the theater and everybody laughs.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it's not a delivery that you're supposed to laugh at, but it's so over the top. And the actress that they hired looks like, I don't know, just some weird character lady.
She looks like, who was the bank lady from Beverly Hillbillies? She looks like her a little bit.
Yeah, she just has that. Again, it's one of many moments in this film where it's unintentionally comedic, and they didn't plan for this, unknown actress, whatever, to have a few lines to be laughable, but her delivery and J. Lee Thomas, like, they could have done it so many ways, but they did it in the way that they did it, and it's funny. And that's why I love it when movies, there's quote unquote bad movies that try to be bad and you can see it a mile away. But when you have a movie that doesn't, they're being earnest and these little nuggets come up, oh my God, it's the best thing. It's a high for me, at least.
And then the news just kind of like ripples across the steno pool on their face, like this really bad Hitchcock shot where everyone's just like,
right, I know. It's so fun.
That lady, I swear to God, like, she's probably been playing in like community theater, like
absolutely,
and Annie for years, and like they called her up to finally do like a Hollywood movie, and she's like, God damn it, I'm giving this.
She was like, all right, Doris, this is your last shot, baby.
Right. That's such a bad scene.
Yeah, but So Warren's whole thing is he harasses all the ladies there. And then we get the phone call and they find out that Betty has been murdered. So then McCann and Leo head over to inform the parents of Betty that she's dead. They have a bit of a static because McCann, you see, is a college-educated guy who uses big words.
Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I see. Your father was a school teacher. I'm like, no, school teachers don't talk like that. Nobody talks like that. Yeah. We're also not going to hold on to this, like, he uses big words thing for very long. They just kind of abandon it about 20 minutes in. No,
they just want you to know that he's like he's like a modern man. He's like a bleeding heart liberal, you might say.
Yeah, because this whole scene, basically the premise of this scene is to let you know that this neighborhood used to be really nice, but things have gone downhill lately, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, Leo tells McCann a story that's going to kind of set up the movie's entire sort of political theory. He tells us a story about a pharmacist who is a morphine addict, and he ends up killing his wife. And then the court declares him temporarily insane, and he gets 6 months in a mental hospital. And upon release, he kills again.
Yeah. People have a very confused understanding of how that works. I think in the 80s, the idea of like pleading insanity was really popular in the 80s. People were like, well, they'll just get out in 6 months. Like, no. You're still never getting out. They're just not going to put you in prison. Also, it never happens.
We'll talk about this kind of at the end of the movie, but I think there was probably one or two like kind of cases that sort of rippled through pop culture, sort of like in the same way that like in the 90s, everybody kind of heard that story. The lady.
Well, it's the Willie Horton story. The Willie Horton thing.
Oh,
that's later. That's going to be like 80. It's the Bush Dukakis race is the Willie Horton story. I don't know what one this is. This is sort of playing off the welfare queen thing too. The same kind of Reagan, fear mongering about like, all these people, they're getting away with murder, and here's these other people who, incidentally, are white. They're out there doing hard work. Like this is the worldview of this film, and it's a little tough to swallow sometimes.
Yeah. It's a set of political bumper stickers in the back of a fucking pickup truck.
Yeah.
So when they arrive at the home of the parents of murdered Betty, Leo realizes that it's the parents of his daughter's friend. And so he goes out to deal out the bad news on his own, leaving McCann in his car.
Yeah, and the woman who answers the door, she goes, "You haven't changed a bit." And I thought, really? He's always looked like a craggy rock face?
I don't know. Charles Bronson kind of has always looked
he
like
actually kind of has.
Face. So Leo and McCann then attend Betty's funeral, and like a real creep, so does Warren Stacy. Leo's daughter, Lori, is also there, and she also remarks that McCann uses a lot of 25-cent words. She and her father are on the outs, also ever since her mother died. That's going to be...
because then she says, "Well, you don't look like a cop." It's like, they're going to say this a couple times to him. Yes, he does.
He definitely does.
He looks very much like a cop.
Yeah. Then they go to Betty's place to talk to her roommate, Karen. And Betty had lots of fellas, it turns out.
Yeah, there's a real, like, well, maybe if she wasn't so loose, this wouldn't have happened to her kind of vibe to this movie.
Yeah. But
because she also kept a real sexy diary
that
lurid.
Records every detail of every encounter she ever had. She was just that into sort of completing her life in the written word.
Yeah, there's a lot of you're allowed to draw lots of inferences about what the writers think about the modern woman.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, but we also find out that there was a guy who would call her up, and she would talk to him, and he had a Spanish accent.
Oh, that's generous.
I know.
So, we'll get to that a little bit later, but okay.
So Leo and McCann, let's see. No. Okay. After the funeral, Betty's father tells Leo that she kept a diary with a record of all the guys she went out with. And he tearfully says, "Too many." And so Warren overhears this detail and heads over to Betty's place to try and dig it up in case it has anything in it about him.
What I love about the roommate and Betty's roommate, she has a framed unicorn picture above one of her double twin beds.
Yeah, she's a girl.
Yeah,
of course she does.
The bedroom is really weird. These two girls are roommates, but they're like again, the double beds are one thing. It's just such an odd and by the way, everything has to be a coincidence. They just happen to be roommates. They just happen to be working together at the same place. Leo just happens to be knows the parents of this person who just happens to be friends with their daughter, former friends with their daughter. Like everything is so like contrived and put together, which just makes it the Warren going after the who is that? We're on Betty, or who's
we're on Karen now.
We're on Karen. The thing that cracks me up about her, she's like, "Oh, I'm not feeling well. I'm gonna make a big pan of fried eggs and toast," and I'm like, it's like in the middle of the day, she's in a negligee, half naked, and she's making eggs and toast. It just, the whole thing about it is so weird that I do not understand.
Yeah, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to go make breakfast for 5.
All right. and with her figure, I'm like, you are not eating fucking toast and fried eggs and whatever. Come on now.
No, I tend to, because when we do these movies, I tend to watch them with I have much more of an eye for detail when I watch these movies. And when she goes to the refrigerator refrigerator and just randomly pulls shit out. I'm like, what is she going to cook? Because she's also got like a lemon, and it's like the direction was just like, okay, go over to the refrigerator and like, get some food out.
Right.
She was like, okay, and just grabbed whatever she could. Very, very funny shit. But yeah, he's in there. He's trying to get the Warren, that is his inner place. He's trying to get into this sort of bedside table, but it won't open. And then Karen comes home, and then she undresses, of course, and then she makes breakfast. And he's hiding in the closet in her room. And then he goes out and just again took the time to undress, goes out, murders her, and then goes back into the room, manages to just tear the table open. And he finds a box that's just labeled "My Diary." when he opens it up, it's empty. So now he arrives home, you see. Warren, that is. And he finds McCann and Leo waiting for him. He invites them in, and they talk. And it's a very, very funny conversation. The cops are constantly trying to trip him up with their questioning. But Warren has an alibi, you see. He went for the murder of Becky because he was at the movies and
harassing women.
Yeah, everybody saw him. He made sure of that. It's fucking ironclad. But Leo is not convinced because he got to the diary before Warren could, and in it they find out that Warren was a real piece of shit to her. And gasp, he speaks a little Spanish. So yeah, keep that in your back pocket there.
I love when Warren goes into not Warren, so Leo goes into the bathroom, and on the back of the bathroom door is like a Bruce Lee poster. It's like,
yeah.
Why would you put a poster in your bathroom? It's gonna get ruined the second the room gets steamy.
Yeah, he's got some sweet posters. He's got like a ninja poster out in his like living room too. Yeah. So while
because that's the one that the other guy takes. He takes like a real hard interest in this Pier 1 art.
Right. And also while he's in the bathroom, Leo like notices some paraphernalia, if you will. And we see it, and at first it's just like, what's that? Don't worry about it. We're going to get to it in the next scene. And he's also got like some really kind of alarming porn that's just kind of laying there where all the women in the pictures look very alarmed.
The porn magazines very quickly of some like twink guy from the 80s. Wait, what? What is that? And they do it, and it's so subtle and it's so quick.
Is that a guy? Because I was like, when I looked at it, I was like,
it is
definitely a guy. Definitely a guy.
Because he basically calls him a homo later.
Yeah, no, it's just that, and since I've done some research on this over the years, there was a scene that was supposed to be shot that was in the original script that had a guy coming on to Warren at a park and some other stuff going on that they took out. So there was definitely more obvious homoerotic gay stuff going on in the film, and then they kind of tempered it out. So this was their kind of quick, like, it feels so throwaway, but it's not, because you're like, okay, so your profile of this killer is that he's maybe closeted, has issues with women, blah blah blah, like all this kind of stuff too. But yeah, it's a guy.
Okay.
On that magazine.
Yeah. So while they're there, McCann receives word from the station that Karen was murdered too. At the scene of the crime, Leo implies that he knows who the killer is, so they bring Warren in for questioning. And there's a lot of holes in his story. And we also learn during this interrogation that Warren did some real nasty kind of serial killer-ish shit when he was a kid. He didn't kill anybody except for a neighbor's cat. There's some sort of implication that he like hurt a neighbor's, a girl who lived next door to him or something like that.
So what I think is interesting is that even though to us now, all of these things where they're like, oh, this guy, they're kind of implying this is a serial killer. In the present, we're all like, yeah, of course, those are like cliche hallmarks of a serial killer. At the time, they probably wouldn't have known that. But also, a lot of the references they're making, or a lot of the kind of character beats that they've got here, are based on actual things, like actual killers, that I'm noticing as they go along. And it's just like, that is a level of detail that I would not have expected from this film.
Right, because this was way, way, way before there were like shelves upon shelves of
Right.
true crime books at bookstores. Like, you had to do some fucking research.
Yeah, these are
to, like-
modeled after actual people and actual things that have happened in the past. So it's like they had to have known some of that, which is, hey, good on them.
Yeah, like maybe there was like that was really kind of before I was paying attention, but like maybe there was a lot of that sort of inspection of Ted Bundy, because like he was sentenced in 79 or 80, I
I
think.
think 79.
Yeah, and so like that was all like right then, and
Oh yeah, half of this is pulled out of that Anne Rule book.
yeah, because like he's got the little beetle that he drives around. Everybody always said that like Ted Bundy was like a handsome man, which I don't know.
Yeah,
but
mm-hmm.
yeah. But yeah, there's like just a lot of that, and then eventually they're gonna like weave in sort of like one of his last sort of berserker kind of massacre that he did, plus like the Richard Speck thing. Yeah, it's wild. So at the same time, as all this is happening in this sort of in the interrogation room, he's identified as the guy at the movies by the two girls. That
my girl's back, and she is just as thirsty as ever because she's like, oh, designer jeans. Yeah, he looked very neat. It's like, lady, he is a suspect in a horrible sex crime, and yet you are still just like waving your vagina at him from behind the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the whole case for Leo is coming undone as this is happening. So when he's left alone in the room with Warren, Leo turns up the heat, implying that he never gets laid. And then from out of the drawer in this table, between them, he produces the device from Warren's bathroom.
I had to pause this movie for a good 5 minutes to collect myself. I've never seen this film. And as soon as I saw this, I was in hysterics and also a little bit stunned.
Jeff, how would you describe this device?
It's a auto suck. I mean, it's a rubber mouth thing. It looks like a weird sort of alien type of thing. It actually, it's funny. It showed up at 10 to Midnight, but it was also in Ken Russell's Crimes of Passion.
Shut up.
What?
Yes. Yeah. When what's her face? Kathleen Turner is opening up Anthony Perkins' bag and taking out a whole bunch of like sex stuff and whatever, because if you've never seen that movie, that's depraved. That is a whole other level. But yeah, they take out the same kind of auto suck that I hope was not the same auto suck that was used in 10 to Midnight.
Because this thing looks like it was designed by David Cronenberg. Like, yeah, I don't.
But oh God, I don't want to say too much because it's like I don't know really what it is. But yes, it is for that time, the 80s. That's what a fleshlight would have been for the current whatever, I guess. But yeah, it's so rubbery and wiggly and ridiculous, and so
but it's also got this like mechanical apparatus.
I would describe it as like someone cut off an elephant trunk off of a rubber mask and then glued it onto like a dust buster or like an egg beater.
Again, it's it's bizarre, and the fact that it's in the film, and the fact that Charles Bronson reaches out and says, "What is this, Warren? What's it for? It's for jacking off, isn't it?" And if I can't even imagine a 1983 audience sitting there in the theater, I would have howled. I would have just been what the fuck?
The very first time I saw this, I lost my fucking mind when I saw it. I was like, what is that? Oh, it's horrifying.
It is arguably the most classic scene for the film. It gets spread around viral on Instagram and on social media all the time because it's just one of those bonkers scenes in a movie that you just cannot believe made it past the censors, that they did it. And you're right, you said earlier in this conversations, how many takes did the crew do without busting out laughing?
Because Bronson is like gesturing violantly with it, and the little rubber appliance is just jiggling in his Stacy's face.
Just amazing,
unreal,
just amazing.
So
best scene,
without hands down. Like when Dave was watching it today, I was like, just text me when you get to a certain part. Like you'll know what part I'm talking about. And the text I got was, "Oh my god!"
I was floored by this because it's true. He's like shaking it, and the thing is wiggling around. I'm like, how could anybody in this scene take this seriously? And they had to because that is the film requires it.
But in a weird way, little moments like this and oh my God, Betty, she's dead. And then the kind of, these are weird, unintentional comedic bits that break up the nastiness and the misogynistic and the sleaze. Like it almost like this movie could be really rough and unpleasant to watch, but it's these little moments of hilariousness that actually continue to catch. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, this movie is really, really misogynistic. Like in a way that you're like, oh, this is a movie made by men in their 50s or late 50s who haven't actually talked to a younger woman probably in decades, but they have very specific ideas about what modern women are, and none of them are very nice.
Right, and they're all young women in this movie, and so they're alternately portrayed as sort of infantile in a lot of ways, where like their rooms are all very like little girlish, but then they undress and they're wearing sexy lingerie like underneath everything. So like it's this weird disparity between like just this two kind of beliefs about these women that they just never really reconcile. It's just kind of thrown at you like, well, yeah, of course this is how women are.
Yeah, and if you don't offset that with something, this would have been a very difficult movie to sit through, because it's like, oh, it's just an hour and 40 minutes of men hating women.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like watching like I Spit on Your Grave or Maniac or something like that, where there's very little humor in it. And so it feels grubby and extra like, oh God, like I want to take a shower after watching this movie. I never feel that way after watching 10 to Midnight, despite its themes. I mean, again, I love women. I respect them and all sorts of everything. And yes, I probably would not take my best girlfriend and say, hey, you want to watch 10 to Midnight? Probably, but there is, again, inherent camp and unintentional comedy that goes through this movie that makes it, I don't know, one of my favorite films of all time, despite all of its nasty themes.
Of all time?
I'm telling you, it's a top 10 film for me.
Wow. Okay.
I never thought that would be possible. When I discovered this movie maybe 7 years ago or so, I was like, where has this movie been all my life? When I was watching Showtime and HBO as a kid, I guess it just skipped over this, because in my mind,
that's because you weren't watching Cinemax, which is where you would have found it.
No. They ran this on Showtime and everything, but because it was a Charles Bronson film, I didn't associate that what it really is a slasher film. And I like slasher films because I'm into that genre, Prom Night and Friday the 13th and everything. And so once I realized this is really a slasher film mixed with Bronson, that's how I got into this movie.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, oh, for sure. There is definitely like that's a common vector that I see mentioned about it. I don't really see it as a slasher movie. This kind of this rings a lot of bells in sort of like Italian cop movies, those poliziotescos or polizioteschi.
Your Italian's impeccable.
I'm fucking working on it, dude. But yeah, that's kind of how I see this movie, because also they like Cannon produced a lot of stuff with like Bruno Mattei and Luigi Cozzi and stuff like that. So there was definitely a bit of that influence in there. But yeah, I can see it. This movie, like I said, this movie's got something for everybody.
Well, and also Bronson's coming off of a run of Italian movies right before this. He's in Violent City. He's in a couple others. He's in some Westerns too.
Yeah, I guess the slasher theme, because there's a lot of stabbing, there's a lot of, especially at the end, and again, I'm not going to jump ahead, of course, but it's almost right out of Slumber Party Massacre. It's like there's so many women in peril in this film and a lot of stabbings that it is not a slasher film in the classic sense, but I would say it is a slasher film in the closet, so to speak, meaning that it should be one. It's not called it because of all the Bronson sort of action cop type of thing, but It's about as gory and body count heavy as any sort of Final Exam or, any of those other films.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I had a note in here somewhere about like, this is basically a cop movie, vigilante movie that's also trying to cash in on the slasher craze.
Yes.
And I think that's what gives it that vibe. It's the women in peril, being chased around a house kind of thing.
Yeah. Also, I'll give you that. I was just going to say, I'll definitely give you that because up to this point, Canon has made a few sort of overtures towards slasher movies, and their understanding of the source material is very weird.
Bad.
Really strange. And so I don't think that even with like dozens of options for them to sort of review at this point, they still just couldn't quite figure out what a slasher movie was.
Yeah.
Well, and also in 1983, the slasher genre had petered out completely. Yeah. So I could understand why they didn't market it that way and whatever. But I bet you anything, if they had this film in 82 or 81 when the slasher stuff was still up there, I think it would have been called something different. I think it would have been, they would have honed in on the slasher. That's just, we'll never know, of course, but
Yep. So basically with this moment, Leo has thrown the entire interrogation out the window because it got rough with Warren.
Well, he also stole something from his house.
Yeah, this is true. Actually, unless he was that was collecting evidence.
I see.
But yeah. Meanwhile, Lori shows up to talk to her father, and the cops on duty treat her like an asshole because they've never heard him talk about a daughter.
Yeah.
Which what the fuck?
Like I've never heard her. He's never mentioned you. It's like, well, does that make her a liar?
Yeah. So, Leo is equally shitty about going to talk to her because he's a terrible father as well as being a terrible cop.
Yeah.
McCann goes to talk to her in his place.
Yeah, so leave it to the young cop who, incidentally, also wants to fuck his daughter. He's going to go take care of this.
Yeah. So she drops some information about Warren on him also that they can use a little later on. So that night,
this is the photograph, I believe.
Yes. So that night, Warren watches Lori and her friends leave work. When they all get home, Lori receives a phone call from a random caller with a, and I put this in quotes, Spanish accent, I guess.
God, so he's standing there on the phone. He's basically like jacking off the phone cord, kind of. Yeah. And he's doing what I could only describe as one of the worst, maybe most offensive Latino accents I've ever heard.
Yeah.
It's got a real like senor kind of vibe to it where you're like, I don't like this. This is racist. It's very
it's very
on
racist.
The nose. Yeah.
So yeah, the phone call also it's Warren Stacy. This is apparently his thing. And the phone call turns nasty and Lori hangs up. And but one of her roommates in this scene is played by an actress named Ola Ray.
It's Michael Jackson's girlfriend from the Thriller video.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So the next day, McCann and Leo go to see Lori at work, and he's trying to mend fences, I guess. She introduces McCann to her friends who are planning a party tonight.
You skipped the part where he accidentally takes a piece of quiche. I hate quiche, and my note says quiche is for faggots.
Again. Well, he doesn't say that word. but yes, it's another weird, odd moment in the film in the cafeteria where they could have done this conversation at any place, but you got to throw in that he's a man,
Yeah,
they take every opportunity throughout this entire movie to do that. Where he's just like, I'm not like that. That's a thing that ladies do.
Yeah, they really want to leave you with the impression that he like lives on a diet of like bourbon and steak.
Right.
Puts it all away with a nice cigar at the end of the day.
Hey, that's Tom Atkins you're talking about.
That's true. I did just describe the Atkins diet. Oh yeah, so things get tense. She's not terribly impressed by McCann's case that her dad's a great cop, as though that's supposed to make her feel better about him more or less abandoning her.
He really comes around on that. Like, at first, he's just like, your dad's a real rigid guy. And now he's just like, well, I'm off to wash your dad's car and do his laundry. Like, really a 180 on Charles Bronson.
Yeah. So on her way out of the lunchroom, she invites McCann to their party, tells Leo that a guy with a Spanish accent made an obscene phone call to her.
Again, a little generous, but okay.
Yeah. So McCann then goes to her place that night, teaches them all how to record phone calls and use the police radio. And then they go to the party, which is a crowded room full of white people doing white people dances.
Oh my God. Also, the song "Look at Me" plays again, or a variation of it. There's like one song that the composer like plays in the beginning with Warren's doing his stuff, plays at the party. It's played throughout, and the scene is so ridiculous because everybody's dancing so 80s from that time.
It's that time where you could just kind of like shake your body at another person and they'd shake their body back and you'd be like, hey, we're dancing here.
But like two people are like dancing by like the front door. Like they just things that just don't it's hard to imagine a time like that might have happened. But when you see it on screen, it just looks so silly. Again, another unintentional moment of just like, okay, this is no longer a serious movie that we're supposed to be taking serious anymore. Especially when he pulls out the gun and stops the party, and then later on crashes into two people humping just randomly on the washing machine. Like, okay,
wearing hospital scrubs.
And then he backs away and he's just like, just carry on having sex on the washing machine.
Right. And also showing an excuse to show nudity, but both nudity, his ass, her, like you just sit there and you're just like, okay, you're right. The MPAA left like 15 minutes into the movie.
Well, you know what it was is they saw the sex toy device and we're like, all right, we're out of here.
No, I think they were like, J. Lee Thompson. Oh, okay. I mean, there has to be something there because, you know, Happy Birthday to Me, which came out a couple years before, that's one of the gorier ones. And that didn't get, like, again, he directed that got kind of a pass where a lot of movies at that time were getting cut to shreds.
Oh yeah, horror movies were savaged by
I just wonder if J. Lee Thompson's name had some credibility or something with them, because again, there's so much going on attended.
I would imagine that there is probably a little bit that, like, this was probably a time when, I mean, well, it was certainly a time when I think you get away with a lot more, but also I think that the studios had a little bit of sway over what kind of got through. It wasn't quite as rigid as it would eventually kind of come to be. Because like Steven Spielberg got away with murder. You know, they were slap a PG rating on movies where like faces were melting and heads were exploding and shit. So you know, there must be a little bit of cachet with your name.
There's got to be some chauvinism happening somewhere on the line here.
I also wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, I also wonder, because this did come out from Canon and it was deemed as an independent, that maybe the MPAA wasn't looking at them as stringently as they were like Paramount with My Bloody Valentine or something like that. Like they're like, oh, okay, you're gonna play in Times Squares and some drive-ins and it's just not like this big release. Maybe they got away with it because they were an independent. That one might be my guess, because certainly those Roger Corman films got away with a lot of stuff too, and
for sure
those were not mainstream. Sorry, this movie will. I've seen it so much that I'm like, I go off into little tangents in my mind. It's like, oh yeah, that might make sense. And then you guys are bringing up like in detail, going every step, and it's just kind of unlocking things. So yeah,
that's how we do.
That's good.
So in the middle of the night, Kessler takes the tape of the phone call over to the police lab. He has the stoner technician take the tape, compare it to the interrogation tape of Warren. Now, while he's away, Leo sneaks into his side room, steals some of the blood sample from the Betty murder case, and he takes the blood over to Warren's place and sneaks in.
This is another one of those like wild contrivances. Like, I don't know, I've got to get from B to C. Here's how we're going to do it, I guess.
Yeah. We cut to the next day. They compare the recordings of the interrogation, Spanish Warren, and they conclude that it's the same guy. So they get a warrant, they arrest him, they search his stuff. And shockingly, they find blood on Warren's clothes where there wasn't any before.
Is this the phone call where she says, whatever suits you, amigo?
Yes.
Well, I think his name is Pedro or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so I mean, I'm not going to repeat what he says, but I've used some of the clips on my Instagram page. They're pretty funny. They're very like, your mother's a whore or something like that. And they're kind of, again, hilarious to see, and because they're not, it's supposedly shocking, but it doesn't come off as shocking. It comes off as hilariously.
Yeah, your father's a pig, and at some point he's like, how do you know? How do you know? He's like, oh, I thought that was privileged information.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening at this point. Like, because later on, when he's like, don't worry, I was there and I showed her how to use the radio. I gave her my police radio. And I'm like, I don't think you can just give away like police issued equipment.
No. But he's quite taken with her, you see. So he's willing to take that risk. This doesn't really work for McCann, though. He's suspicious since Warren has been so careful before. When dropping off the evidence at the lab, talks to the attendant, who reveals that Leo was there in the middle of the night, which makes him even more suspicious. So now at the courthouse, Warren secures a sleazy shithead lawyer who assures him that he'll get him off. But Leo pops in to tell him that they all found blood on the girl's blood on his clothes, which sets Warren off. And he melts the fuck down in that scene.
It is a wonderful moment.
It's actually, again, I go back to Gene Davis being an MVP of this film, because not with the nudity aside, he gets so psycho in that scene, smashing a chair on the door and going crazy and going, no. And you're like, oh my God, that's actually decent acting. Like, you know, I mean, for what it is within the film, like you believe that this guy, Warren, is just totally off his rocker, like a sociopath, like a sociopathic, like he knew that he was being set up because he knew not to do it. Now, I will say this, it's kind of stupid that he kept the jacket and whatever like that, like the, you know, in the first place, but you know,
but this is why, this is another one of those contrivances where it's like the whole point of him being nude when he murders is so he doesn't get blood on it. Like that's why he's freaking out in this moment, is because he couldn't possibly have gotten blood on his clothes because he wasn't wearing any clothes. And it's like, you did all of that just for this. That's incredible.
Yeah. Again, you know, you guys have seen this how many times? Once or twice?
This is my first time.
So for me, after seeing it multiple times, every time I look at him, like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, that wouldn't happen. Nah, that wouldn't happen like that. In the first viewing, though, you just kind of buy it, and in the second one, you do it. But you start unpacking it a little bit more, and it's like, nah, there's no way.
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous from top to bottom.
It is, but that's a great scene where he freaks out for sure.
Yeah. So when they leave the courtroom, the lawyer tells the press the evidence was probably planted, which further sets off McCann's suspicions. The lawyer is played by Jeffrey Lewis, and his hair is making me wonder.
I have a note that says, is Jeffrey Lewis wearing a wig?
Is it a wig?
I don't think it is, because his hair looks pretty much the same in every movie he's ever been in.
Yeah, I don't think it is too. Now that you think about it, I mean, he was in a movie that came out around that time called Human Experiments, and I think his hair was around the same. Yeah,
it's just a little zhuzhed up.
Yeah, I would say that he doesn't have a big role in this film, but boy, he plays that sleazy lawyer down to a T, like that criminal lawyer who knows that his client literally probably killed these people, and he's going to do whatever he can to get him off. And he does it in such a smarmy way that, you know, actually until recently, I didn't realize he was Juliette Lewis's dad.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's a great actor. I mean, Scientology be damned. I still love him. I think he's great.
Is he a Scientologist?
Yes, he was.
Is Juliet? No.
Yes, she is. Or at least she used to be. I don't know if she still is.
I wonder if they must be SPs at this point.
Oh my God.
Because I also love her.
I love her. She's amazing. I don't care what. Actually, I don't really care what she does. She's so awesome that it's like, you can do whatever you want. I don't care.
Oh yeah. Jesus Christ, she was awesome in Yellow Jackets.
Oh my God, best player in that, and one of the best. Although I can't get into the second season, but anyways, that's another story.
Yeah. So now Laurie calls McCann, who is alienating himself from her, spooked by her old man's tenuous grasp on the legal system.
I don't know, he might be a little put off, but not Laurie. She is like, I know you used to be a deadbeat dad, but you know what? You're all right with me now, old man.
Yeah.
Just really come around on him.
Yep. McCann then goes to the police lab, talks to the tech again, who tells him that while he was putting the tape into evidence, Leo was coming out of the blood evidence room. So now, before the hearing, Warren's lawyer walks him through the play. That he's not guilty, but if the evidence doesn't bear this out, they'll plead insanity. He'll get a short stay in a mental hospital. Now, McCann confronts Leo with what he learned at the lab, telling him that he's going to be on the witness stand, and then Leo cops to it, frustrated by the bureaucracy of the system. McCann, the educated liberal, is disgusted by this.
Yeah.
So now...
These young kids.
I know. However, Leo goes into the courtroom as the DA is making his opening statements and admits to him that he planted the evidence, which tanks the prosecution's case and sets Warren free. And then Leo loses his job, but he manages to revive his relationship with his daughter.
Yeah.
After he dropped, they get drunk together.
Yeah, I was gonna say they get drunk.
Yeah.
After he turns off the TV when he's swearing, and they beep it out, which is hilarious. The whole courtroom scene is also interesting. He's like, "Come here, wait, what? Why are you interrupting the proceedings?" And then everybody's all like, and it's like, "Yeah, I planted it, whatever." And again, you're pissed off at Andrew Stevens on some levels because you're like, the dude is a psycho. He kills people. Like, like I will say the movie does a good job of making you go like, okay, what would you do in this situation? Like, you clearly would, like, one person would be like, well, do I lie under oath and let this go? And then the other person is like, yeah, well, fuck the law. What's going on here? So again, movie does a good job of making you think, what would you do if you were Bronson or if you were Andrew Stevens?
Yeah, he says, forget what's legal, do what's right.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, and also, how else are you going to get to Charles Bronson delivering extrajudicial justice, if not for this moment?
Right.
And you got to get us there somehow.
And it was his brand at this point, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, Leo and his daughter get drunk. He drops her off. He goes home, and then Warren calls him to fuck with him. He levels a veiled threat at him. He says Leo tried to kill him, and he always pays what he owes. I don't know what he means by that.
Who cares?
I don't know.
It's just kind of one of those things. If Warren had not said anything, then the movie would end, and he would just whatever. But of course.
So now Leo starts following Warren around, puts up crime scene photos at Warren's job, which causes him to lose it.
Man, old Warren Stacy can't catch a break, can he?
I also love that the old lady are like, what are these photos here? I want you out of here. I'm going to personnel. That's very ridiculous.
Yeah.
She's the MVP of the movie.
But wait. Also, when he goes back into the office and all the women are like, oh no, oh, he's here. I don't want him anymore. And they're all shot. They all have this wonderful shot of them all freaking out of him walking like stoically into the office. Again, camp, but not planned.
Yeah. So yeah, after that, he loses his job, and when he looks out the window, he sees Leo off in the distance, just looking up at him. Now Leo stakes out Warren's place. He finds out that McCann is doing the same thing with the cops. So now Warren, pushed to the edge, takes his fancy knife out of its hiding spot and heads out into the night with Leo following him.
Mm-hmm.
He stops, picks up a prostitute who, just like in our Maniac episode,
I was going to say, it says just like in Maniac,
reads off an inscrutable menu of offerings, their various costs.
Around the world for $75.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, get in. Like, I don't.
You're just a decoy.
You're just a decoy. Just get the hell in. Again, stopping for a moment. Love any 80s prostitute scenes. They're so ridiculous and funny and sleazy, and they just you don't see them in movies anymore because it just isn't that kind of stuff. But they're always the same thing.
God, yeah. Somebody's got a boa. There's a lot of glitter involved.
Yes, there's usually a pimp hanging in the background or some other prostitutes that are not in the scene, but they look kind of skanky and either they're chewing gum or it's just
one of them's probably a man.
Right, exactly.
Actually, in this scene, one of them is a man.
One of it happens in Vice Squad. It happens in all these other movies around this time.
It's an angel.
Like just totally. You just look at it and you just shake your head. And it's like what a time to have prostitutes running like around in your movie. Even if it was like Trading Places, like it's like there's prostitutes in movies in the 80s, like big time.
This scene reminded me of Angel.
Yes, it is very much in that kind of like vein. Again, the sleaziness of the 80s and, Please tell me that you guys have. I'm sorry, but I have to ask this. Please tell me that you've done some women in prison movie by now.
We've
Not
not
yet.
done any women in prison movies yet.
Oh my God. Chain
Yeah.
Heat.
Mhm.
Seek it out. I'll just start there.
I'm quite partial to Reformed Schoolgirls.
Or I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Reformed Schoolgirls.
Reform Schoolgirls is going to make it on here. It's
Okay,
probably
good.
sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Fucking love Reformed Schoolgirls. Anyways, back to attendant.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So Warren and his friend take off, and Leo goes to follow him, but he's cut off by traffic. So one of the other working girls tells him where they probably went, and so off he goes. Warren and his lady take up in a shitty hotel room, and they get ready to kick it. But before they do, Warren excuses himself to take a shower and uses the opportunity to just sneak out the back, giving Leo the slip.
I love when the guy at the front desk, when I think it's when the two of them check in, and he looks at her and says, "It looks like you got your work cut out for you."
Oh, right, because he says, like, give me a wake-up call in 3 hours.
Yep.
And the guy's like, holy shit.
Yeah, and that guy is Carmen. I think it's Philpy is his name.
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
plays every drunk or prospector from the 70s to the 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's the nice boots chief guy in Escape from New York.
Yep.
Yeah. Warren is now.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Warren is now doing his thing, getting undressed. He heads up, posing as a flower delivery guy at the door. As he's doing this, Leo calls Lori, but the chaos of her apartment slows things down, and they learn too late not to open the door.
What I love about this moment is that it takes that very popular sort of 70s, 80s position that women living in communal environments just casually walk around nude all the time.
Yes. No, this is why I called it Slumber Party Massacre. With all these women in one setting right here, just in their negligees, taking a shower or whatever. It's so similar to so many slasher films in which they always had an excuse to have these women do this kind of stuff. But in here, this is their nurse's dorm or whatever it's called and whatever. And continue. This is all the great stuff. This is all the like super bonkers stuff that starts to happen.
And this is the part that's lifted directly from real life too.
Right. This is the the Richard Speck murder.
Right.
So Warren busts in, nude as hell. He starts stabbing. And it is
just wild watching this man, like to see a man in a movie. You don't see a lot of male nudity in general, but like just charging around like a wild animal, leaping over things. It's chaos, and it is as very bizarre and kind of off-putting.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I agree. It's the one moment in the film where you're like, ooh, this is scary, actually.
Yeah, it is. This scene is actually quite intense. And there's once the sort of initial kind of wave of violence ends, there's this kind of prolonged kind of like Warren stalking around part that's actually pretty suspenseful.
And you get a lot of close-ups on that ass too.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Well, there's some moments, maybe because I've seen it so many times, where it's just like, oh, we're almost about to see the goods. No, they just
strategic placements of props,
strategic placements. But I'm just kind of like, even on Blu-ray, I'm just like, it's close. Okay, it's kind of fuzzed out or whatever.
Yeah, they bend over backwards to make sure you don't see anything.
Yeah, but it gets close. There is one haunting shot during this scene. It is when he has killed two girls, including the one in the shower, and he starts to advance to the one who's screaming on the bathroom floor. And it's a faraway shot where he almost looks like a Michael Myers or something, walking very slowly, and you can see him in the doorway. Do you remember that scene?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's very quickly. That to me is the most chilling scene in the film. It's very creepy. It's kind of nightmare inducing. It takes it out of the camp and goes, oh God, imagine if this really happened. You know what I mean? And you said it did, from the Speck stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I think the scene too, where you see him through the shower, just his silhouette through the shower door.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that he's completely nude because it's just the shape of his like actual body. There's no clothing. And there's something very menacing about that.
Yep.
Especially since she's in terror.
Yeah, it's uncanny, right?
Yeah.
It's not what you expect to see. So Laurie's roommates, they try to put Warren off her scent, but it does no good. He kills the rest of them while Laurie hides. And then there's this long, tense like scene where he stalks the place looking for Lori. It looks like he's about to leave when he suddenly turns and throws the bed aside that she's hiding under. And then she throws a lamp at him and flees, but the door is blocked by the dead body of one of her friends.
Like, you just knock her out of the way. You got to do it.
This scene is very Friday the 13th Part 2, where she's hiding under the bed and Jason is walking around. Like, it's the first thing that comes to mind every time when I saw it, and every time I've seen it since. It's yeah. And
Yeah.
what I don't understand also, because I've seen it so many times, is one of the girls, like, I wish Lori had said, "I'm here." Like, her friends literally got killed because she said nothing. And then you kind of watch the screaming girl, like, all she had to do was say, I don't know. It's such a bonkers scene.
I had the same thought. I was like, oh shit, you're just going to sit there and let them all die?
Yeah.
Well, he says, he was like, oh, why you, after he stabs the one in the shower, he's like, well, why didn't you tell me? It's like,
I know.
She did tell you many times.
I know, but again, it's so crazy. But the fact that it does make you think, like, well, God, you just watched 3 of your friends die. Like, it's hardcore.
It's real courageous, Lori, just standing there in the dark.
Right.
But there is, I think the Friday 2 comparison is interesting, because in Friday Part 2, those movies are really kind of ridiculous in their presentation in general.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when he goes to the door and he kind of like you see Jason Voorhees tossing bodies through windows left and right and like throwing people around. But when he grabs her body and just kind of yanks her out of the way of the door, there's something really kind of cold and mean about it, where it's like, that's the difference between Friday the 13th, like a kind of typical slasher, kind of humorous slasher, and this, which like you are all of a sudden reminded, oh, right, this is based on real things. Like, this really happened.
I know.
So Lori then hides in the bathroom. Warren is unable to kick the door in. Now, realizing that he's out of time when he hears cars outside, promises Lori that he'll be back, and he leaves. Lori, thinking that she's safe, leaves the bathroom and is about to leave the apartment when Warren leaps out of hiding and grabs her.
And this is where the final music cue starts, and it is a banger.
Oh, yeah. So this is our second movie to use such a weapon. She burns him with a curling iron and runs out the door.
It's the first movie, Sleepaway Camp.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, of course. There's only 2 movies I know of in which curling irons are used as weapons. So if you found another one, I would have been surprised.
So Warren takes the fire escape to get away as Leo arrives, and he chases Lori down the street. Dong just flopping around in silhouette.
Like, he's just gonna run through the LA night completely nude. Like, that was his plan all along, I guess.
Yeah. But my favorite part is, like, she's running in terror, just fucking sprinting, and he is sprinting just like a marathon runner.
Yeah,
and then
and
then here comes Leo, just casually jogging along, like clearly does not, just lacking
Charles
the cardio.
Bronson does not run.
And what's interesting is that I have been, because I used to live near the location where they shot this final scene. It's the Veterans Hospital in Los Angeles by UCLA. And every time I drove by it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see where they did this. But you got to imagine, again, credit to Gene Davis again, having the set, having all these cop cars, people, extras, whatever. And he's just running like a cheetah with his dick flapping and all this kind of stuff too. You're just like, I've just never seen anything like it. And I don't know if you had been said before, but his role is very pre-American Psycho.
Mm-hmm. Yes, actually,
it feels that way.
In those scenes at the funeral, and then when he's in like Betty and Karen's place, he's wearing a suit and he's got that knife, and I'm like, holy shit! Like this, they very much could have like modeled Patrick Bateman's look off of this.
But even that opening too, where he's getting ready and he's kind of, I don't want to say he's primping, but he's paying very much attention like to his appearance. He's putting the cologne on and all that. Like there's an aesthetic thing. There is a lot of crossover.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. So luckily, Lori runs right into her father, who draws his gun on Warren as the cops close in. And Leo gives him a short speech about trying to keep him locked up, and now there's 3 more dead girls. And then Warren replies that he pushed him to do it. And as much as I hate to admit it, Warren's not wrong. He's a highly unstable killer. What the hell did Leo think was going to happen if he harassed him?
I mean, that was the whole point. He was trying to push him to do it.
Well,
So-
right, exactly. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, so as I say, Warren recites all this insanity defense stuff that his sleazy lawyer rehearsed, assuring Leo that they can't lock him up because he's sick. This is the thing, as we were saying before, insanity is an incredibly difficult case to make.
Yeah.
And right
And
now
it doesn't mean that you're not held responsible for what you've done.
no, they're going to put you in a hospital. They're going to keep you on medication for
And
like,
that almost never happens.
No.
Right.
Very, very rarely does that happen.
no. And right now they have Warren dead to rights with an eyewitness right there and a massacre that they can conclusively tie him to.
But he's also standing there nude in the middle of the street covered in blood. So
yeah, but also
I can see on either side.
yeah, California had the death penalty in 1983, which he would definitely have received, barring any plea deals. But because this is a Charles Bronson movie in the 1980s, Leo executes him as the cops are taking him into custody.
It's, again, this is another moment where I was like, oh my, I did not expect that to happen.
I can tell you again, even though I didn't see it obviously in 1983 because I would have been, I think, 11. But when I saw it at a couple of repertory theaters, for people who have not seen the movie, that shot shocks anybody who's never seen it, because you know it's all leading up to it on some levels, but you don't expect it to be close range, bam, like, oh my God, what the fuck? Like, and I'm gonna say this, it's gratifying because obviously Warren is a horrible person. He took the justice, Bronson kills him, boom. And I love, and I think it's hilarious that the movie just goes to credits.
Yeah.
It just like
roll credits right after this.
Roll credit. You see him standing in front of, cops far away. I'm assuming he's getting arrested. Bronson is.
Yeah.
And then the credits just roll. I've shown it to other people. And they're like, wait, what? That's the end?
Yeah, there's no wrap up. There's no coda.
They're like, we're done.
Yeah.
We there's nothing more to say here. You can imagine that the daughter is freaked out for life. You can imagine that the Bronson got off in temporary insanity. You can imagine all this stuff. But like that shot to the head, fucking great.
Yeah, I say again, this is for people who thought Dirty Harry didn't go far enough.
Yeah. By the way, since you mentioned Dirty Harry, have you seen Sudden Impact? If I'm insulting you, I'm sorry. Sudden Impact.
Well, God damn it. Yes, I have seen it, Jeff.
No, Sudden Impact is very similar to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is.
Very, as you know, but that's a little differently. That's less misogynistic. It's misogynistic, but it's less misogynistic because the killer,
right? Because he's hunting a vigilante
Oh,
who's a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but the woman is getting back at the people who raped her and her sister. So there's this kind of thing that's going on there too. Also, Bronson did another movie with another really crazy psycho, Carrie Snodgrass in Murphy's Law.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Seeing that one too. Again, different vibe, but still amount of sleaze and whatever. But again, it's that death wish thing. You want people to. It's. You gotta love Death Wish, the original, for sparking the whole revenge movie sort of genre, subgenre.
Oh, yeah. I don't know what it is, but I have a weird fascination with not just revenge movies, but like vigilante movies in particular.
Yes.
Vigilante movies, vigilantism in general, but movies specifically were really big in the 80s because crime was really big in the 80s. And so was that kind of soft on crime complaint that was coming from the right. And so that's why these movies specifically appeal to sort of a Republican viewer.
This is a very NRA fantasy.
Yeah. And I mean, we watch them now from a very different perspective, but like that's who the target audience was people who are like, they're not doing enough.
I'm assuming that you guys, another 1983 film that came out around this time called Vigilante, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
so that's a William Lustig movie, right?
That's a Lustig movie. And that gives you, when Robert Forster finally decides to like, fuck it, the law screwed me over and my kid killed and whatever, like you're like on board with it. You're like, okay, all right.
Yeah,
let's
the bonus, the thing that they always did right was they didn't just present you with a criminal that needed to be dealt with. They dealt you cartoonish villains. Like Like the bad guys in Death Wish are just a glimmer of what's to come. By the time Death Wish 3 comes around,
Well, yes,
they're
the
not
Riddler.
just yeah, they're not just like they're not just bad guys, they're not just gangbangers on the street. They're like a weird cult. And they got all this like weird ceremony because like they do this also, like the same thing kind of happens in Exterminator 2. Where they're not just a criminal gang. It's like this weird cult that Mario Van Peebles is at the head of.
Yeah. Well, Cobra has that.
Cobra has the same thing.
Yep.
Same thing. Again, it's just, there was something about that period of time in the 80s when these films were just like, they were almost like turnkey.
Because they go out of their way to justify it by, it's not just the cartoonish villain. Like I think the peak of it is the satirical peak, I guess, is the Kurtwood Smith in RoboCop. It's like this: you are maniacally evil, but they also drive it home and justify it by like this sort of weak, feckless bureaucracy that's really keeping it. Like the real problem here is the government who won't let me just shoot these people in the street.
Right. Well, it's just, I mean, and the other thing at the end of 10 to Midnight I've thought of is like, what's that conversation that Andrew Stevens has with Charles Bronson? Like, yeah, you were right. You should have planted the blood. There are 3 people now dead because of me and not turning it up. You know what I mean? There's all that after residual. That's because, of course, they've seen the movie way too many times. Of course.
Yeah.
But I, first of all, I commend you guys for taking all the way through the film, beat to beat. This is fantastic, meaning that if you are a 10 to Midnight fan, you should be listening to this breakdown of it, because I think it's
that's quite an endorsement.
Well, no, because it's pretty detailed. And I, again, I've asked myself, why do I like this movie so much when it is not really like my other favorite films, like The Fog and Halloween and Carrie? Those are good films. Or like I love Cruising. That's a whole, gay slasher film, and it has other stuff too. But there's something about this that works. I do think, I'm just, again, as an out and out gay man, I do think that the male nudity for a good looking dude plays into the absurdity of the whole thing, and there's some eye candy. I actually am not really that attracted to Gene Davis is like look for the time or whatever, but the fact that there is this naked guy running around the film, I've never seen. I like movies that are a little different and a little offbeat, and I've never seen a movie that would ever dare to have a killer running around naked like this, a male killer.
It's very weird, particularly since like this was a very homophobic time that this movie was made in. And like the way that this is presented, like what was the intention here? Like I'm having a hard time kind of, because female nudity was just abundant throughout this period, but like that is a very peculiar detail of the movie, and it's prominent.
It is certain. What were you going to say?
I think that's why it stands out though, because one of the ways we kind of wrap up these conversations is, why do these movies endure? And I think the reason, because it's a fairly standard movie, with the exception of the fact that your serial killer is a nude man running around.
Right.
And I think why this movie endures is like, it takes the familiar tropes that, by 1983, they're sort of like ingrained in movie viewers, and it subverts them in a weird, unintentional way, and you cannot forget it. You're still thinking like, yeah, it's just a typical kind of vigilante movie, but the guy is nude throughout like the whole movie.
It leaves an impression.
You guys just unlocked a memory with me. Probably about the time when we released 10 to Midnight on Blu-ray from Scream Factory, I had a double feature at a friend's place with 10 to Midnight and The Seduction. So we had a Andrew Stevens unintentional through line here, but both movies deal with lone wolves. Another favorite lone wolf movie of mine is called The Fan with Michael Biehn.
Oh yeah.
Which is a camp thing in its own thing. But these 3 films all have this weird sort of, okay, there's a stalker mentality from these handsome men, but they're going after women like Morgan Fairchild, which is so glossy, and Lauren Bacall, which doesn't make any sense at all. That's a very cool, very closeted movie. And then
because Lauren Bacall was like 67 at the time.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. And there's even a gay blowjob scene in the fan on the roof. Yep. So there's all that going on. And the seduction is all weirdly glossy, and Morgan Fairchild is just very drag-ish, and so there's that. And then you got 10 to Midnight, where, you know, they give you the little coded stuff like, okay, there's gay porn in the background, there's a suck machine, there's the male nudity, there's a weird, again, homophobic-ish, homoerotic-ish through line through those three particular films. And I love those films. I can't explain it. I don't know what that says about me. I mean,
I think it comes from like older people writing movies for younger audiences. But one of my favorite things throughout these like exploitation movies, I guess, is when particularly like Italian movies they make movies about American culture, and it's like you have wildly misread what American culture is. And it's a little bit like that, where it's like you've got men in their like late 50s and 60s writing a movie that is clearly for a younger audience, but it's like you do not understand younger people at all, but you are dead certain that you do.
Yeah, it's true. You're absolutely right. It's, again, from that time period in the 80s where you had, think about this, so sorry, in 80 to more like 85, 86, teenage sex comedies, slasher films, vigilante films, women in prison films. Am I missing something? I know that there. Well, sorry. All the sword and sorcery excuses to show nudity and barbaric stuff.
Oh God, yeah, Deathstalker came out around this time.
Yes, all of the sword and sorcery, all that kind of stuff going on there too.
There's also weird teen sci-fi stuff like The Wraith.
Yes, and also all the post Star Wars ripoff movies that, you know, the Alien ripoff movies, which had a lot of nastiness and nudity. I don't know if you've ever seen Galaxy of Worm, but a woman is literally raped by a big giant worm in the film. That's only Roger Corman could do that. We as Gen X, to have these kind of movies in our, this is what we grew up with, this is what we know.
It explains so much about us.
I know, but we were really watching things that we really shouldn't, and we were just, my God.
Yeah, it's the last good thing capitalism gave us.
It's a combination of just like unsupervised youths and just an abundance of garbage that was just available through several channels, through like constant rotation on cable television, through video stores that you can just go and get a tape for like $2.
Well, God. And the other thing too is that for our generation, an R-rated movie, seeing an R-rated movie was actually a big thing. It was a taboo thing. You had to sneak and scramble channels. You had to wake up in the middle of the night to watch something. You had to get permission. Sometimes you did get carded at the movie theaters and you couldn't see stuff. So there was an extra excitement to see these R-rated films.
Yeah, you had to work for it.
Yeah, I would leave a tape running overnight. Just with like HBO or Showtime running, and just see what showed up on the tape in the morning.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or like you wait for the right person at the video store who just doesn't give a shit. But like you never know. Like that's a gamble.
Absolutely. Well, I've posted this on my page. The Showtime after hours movies that were only shown after 10 o'clock because they were either too sexy or too violent, and I just was like, okay, the gates of hell. What is this? Like, you know, just like priming myself for whatever nonsense was going to show up. But I will say that I am surprised once again that I didn't see 10 to Midnight much earlier. I felt like I'd been missing a very necessary movie in my universe when I finally did see it about maybe 10 years ago for the first time.
Yeah, I was very slow to come around to Bronson movies just because he wasn't like glamorous as
he seems humorless too. He doesn't come across as a guy. I think you're right, Jeff. I think he did sort of know what was going on. But I think if you're just looking at him kind of out of the corner of your eye, you're like, that guy's not for me. Because I would look at this stuff and be like, these really aren't my kind of movies. And then you watch them and you're like, actually, these are my kind of movies.
Yeah.
And my brothers would rent at the time the Predator and the Stallone movies, and who was the other? The Schwarzenegger movies and whatever at that time. That wasn't really up my top, but they didn't rent the Bronson movies. They just didn't go for that. That appealed to adult men, not children. So maybe that's why 10 to Midnight, because no one in our school talked about 10 to Midnight or even Sudden Impact or whatever. Like those were made for men that were adults, older, I think.
He's kind of he doesn't come across like Stallone or Schwarzenegger. He's not a big action guy. He's an old Western guy.
Absolutely.
And he doesn't have the body to appeal to sort of 80s kids. He's not like there's no like, you're not going to see him with a lot of women in movies because that face, but like it's just he's not going to get you.
I don't know, dude. He was married to Jill Ireland.
Yeah,
so.
but again, he was doing something right. Another guy from that period, Chuck Norris. I never got into any of his films, but there is one film of his that is literally a slasher film, and that is Silent Rage.
Yes.
Please tell me you've seen that.
Yeah.
That is literally Halloween 2. If you watch it again and you think of it like this is Halloween 2, you're like, oh yeah, they just substituted Michael Myers for this guy. And
God.
Chuck Norris.
Well, now I got to watch that.
That's crazy. I know we're wrapping up probably.
Oh yeah, I could talk canon in the 80s for forever, but we are running a little long in the tooth here.
Sorry. But I
love it.
I'm loving talking to you guys. I'm impressed with this again, the deep dive, and not everybody can do that.
It's our brand. We kind of pride ourselves on it, but yeah. This has been great, Jeff. I want to thank you so much for joining us from the bottom of my heart. This has been a really, really great talk, and you've been a lot of fun. Can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, I am on Instagram at Jeffrey Mixed. Come join the party. It's pretty funny. We have a lot of. I used to set it up as come for the what the fuck, stay for the comments, because I'll set up the clips and then people will go into the comments, and it's a great way to escape. And if you're Gen X, chances are you're going to see something like V, the Final Battle, or some commercial that you remember from a kid that drove you nuts. And I love to unlock my brain to put that on there. So I'm there, and I'm on Facebook. I'm on YouTube. I just came out with a second dance single. I know that this is probably not up your alley, but I decided to tap into my Gen X thing where I wanted to have songs that sounded like 1988. So I hired a whole bunch of remixers, and I'm working with a producer who created the girl group Expose to have it sound like you could have heard this in the dance club in 1988. And I am having a blast. So there's my plug there.
That is awesome.
But I'm not just. I want to make sure I'm very clear of this. I'm very in on my own joke, meaning that I'm taking it seriously and it's fun, but I'm not delusional of like having a successful pop career at 52. Whatever.
Yeah, I got the impression with the first song you put out there, maybe not everyone picked up on that.
Yeah. Well, some people thought that was a serious cover. I'm like, come on, guys. There's no way I would hire a photographer and have a leather jacket and do all this kind of stuff or whatever like that. And you think I'm being serious about it? Now, in 1988, if somebody took that picture, oh yeah, they were probably dead serious. They probably thought they were sexy and whatever like that. I'm having fun. Somebody called me one of the village people that wasn't, or something like that. I'm like, great. I'll take it. I have a good sense of self.
The sixth village person.
The sixth village person.
That's awesome.
Yes. Well, this was a pleasure for me, guys. I really, to be asked to do any of that kind of stuff as a special guest. I'm always very humble and very grateful that somebody would want to hear my 2 cents on any sort of, pop culture type of thing. But I have my specific lanes that I'm in, and you clearly knew that this was one of them that I could drive down 10 to midnight of all things.
Yeah, I think I heard you elsewhere, and I think I'd heard you talk about it. And I was like, oh, we're doing 10 to midnight. I'm gonna have to drop him a line. I'm glad you answered.
my previous podcasts have been this is funny. The last one was cruising, and several years ago was the film The Fan. And so I think I've done The Fog at some point when I was at Scream Factory, because that's my favorite film of all time. That's
Oh yeah,
that's
big fans over
actually
here.
that's actually a legit good movie. There's nothing to me, plot holes aside or whatever like that, still my favorite movie. It will always be my favorite movie, and I'll die on that cross, even though there's a cross in the movie. But yeah.
So Dave, what are we doing next?
Well, I pulled a bit of a switcheroo with our schedule. And in 2 weeks from today, we are going to be watching Cool World, a movie that is ostensibly written and made for people who liked Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but thought it wasn't sexy or violent enough.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it. I know Shout Factory put out a Blu-ray of that, I think a couple of years ago. Do you have that?
I'm going to have that soon.
Oh, okay. Yep. Now, do you have the Blu-ray of 10 to Midnight?
I don't.
I caught it streaming.
There were 2 Blu-ray releases of it. Twilight Time, which no longer exists anymore, is a small company. They put it out first, and I knew the owner of it. His name was Nick Redman. He was a wonderful guy, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But when I was at Scream Factory and we got 10 to Midnight from MGM after their rights expired, we worked to deal with Twilight Time to get their commentaries, and then we did new bonus features. And it's one of those things that Nick Redman, wherever he is, I will always think of him and thank him for being so kind to give us those extras, so that our release, which was basically a second Blu-ray release to a lot of people, we needed to bump it up. We had to do a new transfer. You guys were watching it on streaming, but if you're watching the new Blu-ray on Scream Factory, it's even more detailed. So, if you really want to get to know Warren Gene Davis more, go there.
See all the nooks and crannies.
Yeah, all that 1080p glory.
Yeah. But I remember we also there's this wonderful guy, Paul Talbot, who wrote a book on I think he's wrote a couple books on Bronson, and he did the commentary. Did you look at his stuff?
Yeah, some of the sources that I used when I was looking this up, just in the anemic research that we did for this. What was his his movies for men series that he did?
He is the Charles Bronson expert, and so we got him, and it's a good. And again, if you're really obsessed with that movie, that is the Blu-ray to pick up, the Scream Factory version.
Yeah. All right. So, we will be back in a week with Bring Me the Axe Does Troll. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back. The 99-cent rental takes on Cool World.
Very cool. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.